Good morning, everybody. Hello. Thank you so much for tuning into my channel. My name is Patience. I'm your favorite spirit medium, host of Spirit News on all major platforms. We are so excited to be here, co-creating with you in this magical way. Thank you so much for all of your love and support. We're truly happy to be here. We are doing... Ooh, I'm not even going to say it. I'm not even going to say it. Let me just clear the field. Holy Divine Spirit, please be with me. Hello, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Hello. LOL. Hello. How are we doing on this fine Saturday? I'm just so grateful to be here. I'm so happy to have woken up this morning. I'm literally so happy to be alive. Being alive is a miracle. It's an absolute miracle. I'm fantastic. I will say that I've been eating too much fiber lately. I gave myself the biggest tummy ache. I definitely had it's called a fiber flood. We're trying to eat more healthy and stuff, and we're trying to feel fuller, longer, faster. So it was so severe that I couldn't even function. It was very disheartening. I couldn't even work out. Oh my God. I'm just joking, but that's about it though. That's about as exciting as it gets over here. But on the astral realm, I will say that things look a lot different in the astral realm. It's like more animated and more dramatic, and I can say that I really like having a boring life. I really like having a boring life. I like that the peak of my life of my day is that I had a tummy ache. Thank God. Thank God. Tummy aches. That's great. You guys, I feel funny right now. There's a weird energy in here. For sure. Weird energy. But thank you so much. Thank you for all the new subscribers. Thank you for all my OGs. I'm super grateful. 12-2 in the chat. I'm just waiting for some people to come in. So we're gathering components and elements for the new episode that we're doing live. For our Spirit News, we're doing episode 20, Spirit and Identity. We've asked Spirit the question of what identity is from their perspective, from their higher perspective. So, the last episode I did was 19, and it was Divine Feminine, the Rise of Divine Feminine Energy. And it's been almost like a year since I did my last episode. And I'm really comfortable with just doing the episodes as they come. And so sometimes they take longer than others. But what I'm observing is that, the information will come as fast as you allow it. Or as open as you are to receiving it will be the time that dictates how quickly it comes upon you. Like if you're somebody that has no kids and you spend all day reading and doing research and looking for the signs and journaling and all you have is just a job, your job where you pay the bills and stuff, then sure, you could get the things faster and then information faster. But I have 2 kids, I have a husband, I have a family, I have a full-time job, and so I admittedly don't receive the information as fast as I would like. But I'm trying not to beat myself up for that. So I don't know if there's someone in here who's beating themselves up because they're not where they think they should be. Just know that you're exactly where you're at for where you are now. So that was for somebody. But that's so yellowish. Well, I could be blue. Would you like blue? Would you like blue? I might change my
deliberation.
Okay.
And room.
Okay, thank you. But I don't like blue. I like this one. Okay. We are where we need to be. Exactly. Absolutely. So I say that the stuff about the new episode coming up because a couple things. Where's my pen? So August 1st, it's a Saturday, August 1st at 6 a.m. We're going to do a live episode of Spirit News for Spirit and Identity because we really want everybody to be able to participate in real time in case there's any questions that come up that I'm not receiving or that I'm not, getting in the moment. We can get that with Spirit because I know that our whole society has an identity problem. An identity issue. Who are we? Who are we to become? Where did we come from? Am I a man? Am I a woman? Am I nothing? Am I a loser? Am I a winner? Am I successful? Am I wanted? Not wanted? All these things. So, we're definitely going to be revealing that August 1st on Saturday at 6 a.m. So if you want to join us for that, please come through. But this reading today is going to be Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud, and I am a hip hop witch. LOL, you were so funny, so funny. So that distracted me. That was very funny. I'm gonna write that down. I am a hip hop witch sailor. That was funny. Okay, so this came up because I was getting the components for the episode. I was learning, of asking the questions, going into meditation, all that stuff, receiving small components of the episode, and Carl Jung was part of the episode because from my experience with talking to Spirit and being in relationship with Spirit my whole life, I'm a child psychic. A lot of Jung's concepts are super spiritual and really line up with what Spirit has always taught me my whole life about the unconscious and the shadow work and stuff. And then it brought to my attention that it really lines up with a lot of Yeshua's teachings too. So then that brought the question, well, how did he get this information? Because if I got the same information, obviously in a different way, I'm not a psychologist, but that's why I got it spiritually. I don't want to give away too much because we'll talk about it on August 1st. But if I got the information spiritually through my spirit team, how did Carl Jung get the same information, but in his way? So that's a question I want to ask him. But then Spirit's like, well, you have to, this is a mirrored reflectional universe, and it's electromagnetic. So on one hand, if you have the spiritual aspect of psychoanalytical concepts, then what is the opposite? Good morning, Robin. Good morning. Thanks for being here. Then what is the opposite? Well, the opposite is Freud. And so Spirit's like, we need you to look into Freud because you're missing the other side of the coin when it comes to these concepts, and there's a missing component. And we've been scratching the surface of it and discovering a main culprit of mental disorder in our society. But we're really going to touch on it today, and then it's going to come full circle August 1st when we combine all of the information together, okay? So I hope that you're following. I hope that this isn't going over your head, and I love you so much for even freaking being here. You guys are awesome. I can't believe how amazing, how miraculous it is attracting my soul tribe. For people who understand me, it is 100% one of the biggest miracles you can experience. And I understand why people get addicted to social media when you're finding your people and stuff. And that's one question I really want to pose to Freud and Jung. Jung. Okay? Valid. Okay, so let's get started. I'm doing two people. If you guys watch me, um, you know that I'm not really good at reading multiple energies, but because I'm newer to deliberate intention of my gifts. But everybody has gifts. Everybody has a soul. So everybody is capable of having spiritual abilities. Everyone has spiritual abilities. Okay? I had to say that. So what I can tell you to start, I guess where our start is that these two people were around at the same time. Oh my gosh. I just realized something. Sigmund Freud has the same birthday as my mom, May 6th. That's so funny. So, Sigmund Freud is an Austrian neurologist, born May 6, 1856, passed over, and you know what I'll tell you right off the bat is that Sigmund Freud has not gone home, and Carl Jung has. Okay, and oh man, this is so hard. I don't know where to start this freaking reading. And he crossed over in 1939. Okay, and Carl Jung was born July 26, 1975. So he's a little younger. He's a little younger than Freud. And he crossed over June 6, 1961. And Carl Jung was 85 when he crossed over, and Freud was 83. Okay? So, Carl Jung's theory was that, Carl Jung's main theory is analytical psychology, which focuses on the balance between the conscious and the unconscious mind. It centers on the collective unconscious, which is a very much higher perspective of the collective unconscious. The weird thing is that it's a three-sided coin of German psych, so Adler. Oh, I didn't get Adler. Oh my gosh, I can't even. If I threw a third person into here, I think my brain would go into a pretzel because I'm already pretzeling. No spirit. Oh, spirit said no spirit for Adler, so there could be something about Adler that ain't ready yet. It ain't ready yet. I'm actually a psych. Oh, no way! Are you really? Oh my gosh, that is wonderful. You are so multidimensional. I love that. I did not know that. Thank you for sharing that with me. Well, I'm gonna be really excited to see how you feel about what comes up. That's why you're with us. Yeah, that's why you're with us for sure. I feel so grateful to have you in here. I'm kind of nervous now. I'm kind of nervous now. What do you think of that? No, I'm just kidding. What do you think of my nervousness of this topic? No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so the thing that I'm finding hard in this reading, I think it's the complexity of the word I want to use is pull. It's like these two energies have concepts that are both right and wrong. It's this weird, like, let me continue. Let me not get into that. Okay, so Carl Jung he was known for centering on the collective unconscious, which is something that spirit has brought to my attention. A universal layer of human experience containing inherited symbols and behavioral patterns called archetypes, which is something that spirit has said to me since I was little, that there's like a forever turning wheel of different experiences, patterns, and basically options of experiences for us to choose from, or sift is the better word, on a collective consciousness level, where that's why when we do these collective readings, we always say that even if we're talking about a high profile figure that's well known, whatever comes up can be a shared experience through the collective consciousness on a macro and micro level.
Paranormal.
What do you think of your nervousness is the real question. What I think is that I hope it doesn't interrupt the receiving of spirit guidance through this message. My own mental blocks can make me stumble when receiving spiritual guidance. That's what I think. Your nose is crooked. Thank you. I'm navigating a new path of guiding others through the shadow self as well as integration of the higher self with the shadow self. Yes, well, thank you for being here, because that's what Carl Jung was all about. So he was into the collective unconscious, archetypes, individuation. The ultimate goal of Jungian psychology is the lifelong process of integrating the conscious and the unconscious parts of the mind, which is something that Spirit has brought to my attention and is helping me do in real time, and we've documented that. Thank you for being here. Thank you. And so we made an episode about integration, and I put in that episode, I believe it's 18 or 17 or something. What I put in that episode is examples of people who are not integrated, to give examples of what it looks like, and integration is such a big part of the experience on Earth, because we become so fragmented and you have to retrieve those pieces. So we talk about that a lot. So that's one thing that, or one of many things where I'm like, wow, how did he get this information, and how did he come to this conclusion? Okay, because I got it through spirit guidance. So what did he get it from? And he was kind of like a mystical, like a mystic psychologist. I really feel like Jung kind of bridged. He had a lot of concepts that matched up with Yeshua, and I don't think Yeshua was coming from a psychological place. He was coming from a spiritual place, just like me. And I think that's why I found the relevance of his information, and why I wanted to deep dive into it. And so he believes in synchronicities, meaningful coincidences if they occur with no casual relationship, yet seem deeply connected by shared meaning. And absolutely, because that's how the universe speaks to us, is through symbols, synchronicities, numbers, things that we often dismiss as coincidence, okay? It's an ongoing process, and it's so much more complex than anything we were ever taught. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. He believes in introversion and extroversion. He believed in psychic energy. He made many personality tests, which we highly recommend you go do. If you can take a lot of Jung's, you can take a lot of psychological tests based on Jung's theories that can help you identify yourself, because what we're finding is that a lot of people in society are having an identity issue because they're too afraid to look at themselves, or too afraid to integrate, or they just don't know that they're supposed to do that, or they have or they're being affected by the collective unconscious. There's starting to be a pattern of so much abuse. Spirit just said abuser. Of so much abuse that's unprocessed, that it's starting to reach a culmination point where it's affecting the collective unconscious, and anyone who has an electromagnetic match to abuse that is not remembered, or Hi, Mimi.
Can I watch with you kids?
Upstairs.
I don't want to watch something.
On the big TV? Why don't she watch your tablet?
I don't have any.
I said, why doesn't she watch her tablet? We'll tell her to get on. Mommy said to get on her tablet so we can watch YouTube. Hey, close the curtain for me, buddy. Thank you. Okay.
Isabella.
So, I wonder if I should change my necrometer. Oh yeah, the power went out twice before I started. The power went out, and I was like, oh my gosh, and then it tried to come back on. And I was like, oh my god, is the power going to be out? I believe because Christ understood that everything was energy, and I think Carl Jung tapped into some of that and understood that the alternatives might just be as interesting. Well, that's what we're going to find out. I'm really impressed. I never saw Jung this way. Thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you. Thank you. Oh my god, I'm so... Oh, the psychiatrist is thanking me, the spiritualist. Well, I'm happy you're here, you guys. Thank you so much. And so Freud was actually kind of like the opposite. And this is where like the two different energies are almost like opposing each other. And I really feel like Freud represents the masculine energy of similar concepts, and Jung represents the feminine energy. And so it's funny that these two people opposed each other based on what they believed, about psychology, because it's like they were both right, but they just represented two sides of the coin. And so I'm interested to see how they feel about each other now in retrospect. Oh, that's my baby boy. Yes. Freud is not masculine. These trolls, man. The power went out twice, so there's something here, okay? So Freud was an Austrian neurologist and psychiatrist who is considered the father of psychoanalysis, which is laughable. Okay? So I don't even know where to begin with this guy. So Sigmund Freud's most controversial theory is the Oedipus complex, which posits that young children possess unconscious incestuous sexual desires for their opposite sex parent and view their same-sex parent as a rival. You know what? Let me not get into that right now, okay? Hold on a second. Hold on a minute. So, hold on, let me see. I gotta say, Freud let me down. Freud let me down hardcore. I was like, Freud, what the hell is the matter with you? What is going on? Why is my computer going crazy? I'm telling you. Okay. So this is a brief thing about Freud, and you guys can definitely go read deeper into it, but I just want to give you the basics. Sigmund Freud, the founder of psychoanalysis, believed that dreams are a window into the unconscious mind. He argued that dreams are not random, but are disguised expressions of unconscious wishes and conflicts. Okay? He thought that the dreams or the unconscious mind express hidden wishes, fears, and conflicts that we may not be aware of in waking life, which, according to Spirit, is true. I would like to say this is not about race. Do you understand this? Oh, thank you guys. Thank you guys so much. I don't know what they said, but hey, nobody. Okay. And so, what else? There's a, oh my gosh, that's so weird. I thought that said something else. So basically these two had, I don't want to say they were like in competition with each other, but they just had different ideologies. So like the conscious mind, Freud, the conscious mind actively suppresses our desires, and Jung said the conscious mind constructively negotiates our emotions. Um, Freud thought that the unconscious mind was driven by sex and our libido, and Jung said that the unconscious mind is influenced by our lived experiences. Um, Jung or Freud thought that transference requires a hierarchical relationship, and Jung believed that it requires leveled mutual relationship. And so there's like two different sides to the coin. They're both right in many ways, and then they're also wrong in other ways. So it's going to be interesting to see. But what we're really going to dive into, because we can't deny that these two people played an important role in the way we look at psychology, and the fact that their research still is carried on, to today. And I'm sure if LOL, if you can chime in, I don't know what they teach in psychology school, but I'm sure that Jung and Freud are two people that get brought up to kind of have um, a foundational knowledge about the way we work and stuff. So um, now we're gonna get into the controversies, because that's where I want to step in and where I want to get the truth, and how these people came to these um, how these two people came to these theories, and what they think of that now. Yep, two main schools of thought. So I want to do Freud first, because I got some questions, and he's not crossed over yet, and Jung is, and I think that, you know the reason why Jung crossed over is I don't know yet. There's something about hidden knowledge that both of these people I want to get to the bottom of, because these are not. I found these concepts not through them, but through spiritual guidance, and the fact that they line up is very interesting to me. I want to see how they came to these conclusions. Okay, so some of the conspiracy theorists about Freud, or controversies, or however you want to say. Okay, can I just say, Freud, what the fuck is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? Why did you drop the ball? Why did you drop the ball? Robin, I need to know why Freud dropped the ball. He was on the brink of a medical breakthrough when he discovered that 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 sexual abuse, for mental disease, for mental disorders, and could be. Am I really dead? Am I really dead? And could be the main reason why we have such a identity issue right now, energetically, in our society, because he was, from what I understand, and please tell me if I'm wrong, but this is from what I understand. He was doing unethical practices, and he was in a high society for where he was from, and I think, or where he was living at the time. I think it was Austria, and he was psychoanalyzing women that came from elite families, and what he deduced was that they were all going through mania, or they were all exhibiting high anxiety, depression, things that were categorized as mania back then. And what he found is that what all of them have in common was sexual abuse. It was being abused as a child sexually, all of them. And so he put out information that said, this is what I'm finding, and I believe that sexual abuse is going to be the main cause of most mental disorders. And when he put that out, it became very controversial because all of the people he was psychoanalyzing were all from rich, elite families. Which we're finding that elite families have this weird tie to fertility rituals. Okay? And so the main way they keep their wealth is through fertility rituals. Not all rich families, but a lot of them. And so he called it the seduction theory. Now, it says Sigmund Freud's legacy is defined by intense ongoing controversy due to his unscientific methodology, overemphasis on sexuality, and controversial ethical practices. Critics argue his theories were unfalsifiable and based on small sample of affluent 19th century Viennese women, resulting in flawed cultural bias model of human mind. You are annoying. So what happened was he put out a paper that had the truth about sexual abuse being one of the number one causes of mental disorders. Sexual abuse is the leading cause of most mental disorders or emotional disorders. Okay? Because he put this out, it was too controversial because everyone he was psychoanalyzing were the rich elite. And so what did he do? He backtracked it and he made up a theory. He made it up to come back into people's awareness so he wouldn't get left behind. And he came up with the seduction theory. I'm disappointed. It says, Freud initially believed his female patient's hysteria was rooted in actual childhood sexual abuse. He controversially abandoned this, claiming instead that these were unconscious childhood fantasies. A shift critics argue protected influential societal figures. And that's where the Oedipus complex comes in. And it says right here that, where is it? Oh my gosh, I lost it. I'm sorry, I'm so disorganized. I thought that they were organized. The Freudian cover-up, alleging that he intentionally suppressed evidence of childhood sexual abuse. Critics argue that after initially correctly identifying abuse as the root of mental illness, Freud retracted this to save his career, misclassifying real abuse memories as infant fantasies. Are you fucking kidding me? You think that you totally disrupted the path. You totally took the natural course of evolution for all of humanity off course. Off course. Because you didn't want your career to be ruined. I'm disappointed. I'm so disappointed. Okay? His seduction theory, he made up a new theory to reconcile the disruption in his brain for having to restate his initial findings. And what he basically is saying,
I was betrayed.
What he's basically saying is that infants must have sexual thoughts, because why else would you grow up and become aggressive and sexually deviant? It must have been when you were little, when you were sucking on a bottle or your mom's boob, and it must have been it's just like so ridiculous. And it's no wonder that he got cancer of the mouth and started to decay in his mouth, because he purposely took back the truth. He was in a brotherhood. He was subversive. I studied psych, and I think Freud was an asshole. He was an asshole because he found the root cause of mental illness, and instead of taking the criticism, instead of taking the whole collective unconscious and going forward with the truth, he retracted the truth and made a new truth, and decided to base all of his psychological evidence based on this made up theory. And he just said, I was betrayed, I was punished. Okay? Okay. So we're going to talk to Sigmund Freud first. Freud, what the hell is wrong with you? Why did you do that? Why did you do that? Why did you take it back? Eliminate. He said, someone was murdered, I was betrayed, I was punished. Eliminate. Only talks about themselves. Because he was selfish. He didn't want to be irrelevant. He didn't want to be irrelevant under I am, ego. Masculine energy. I'm telling ya. Okay? What was the real unedited reason you abandoned, you made this theory up? Because he didn't want to lose his place. Still believes in Santa. He thought that the unconscious, there's something about, oh my gosh, this is like, I'm finding this very difficult. I don't know if it's I'm just going to continue. I don't know, there's some kind of pushback right now. He made it up because he didn't want to ruin his career, okay? His lifelong work. Argues over ping pong rules. Yeah. Malevolence. He said malevolence. He also said, I was punished and I was betrayed. So when he wrote that controversial paper about the cause of mental illness, when he discovered that all of the people he was talking to had that common denominator, there must have been some kind of uproar about it. Because think about it, if we would have nipped this in the bud at this time in the early 1900s, then, the wars happened, later on. And so the Nazis discovered this information, and, MK Ultra and all that. And so this is all connected. This was a big old detour. Okay, this is a big old detour caused by one person's choice to not reveal the truth. And that's why he got And that's why he got cancer in his mouth. And he was starting to decay in his mouth, because he purposely found the truth and then had to retract what he said and then change what he said just so he could remain relevant, and started this whole thing. Let me just tell you that I know right now 100% for a fact that an infant is not equating any sucking or any, is not jealous of a parent unless it is exampled, unless it is experienced through them, through the parents. It's the only way that an infant child would ever have experience or be able to even exhibit those behaviors as if they had an example. And that's why I think that's why it argues over beer pong. Thank you so much. That's why Holy Divine Spirit, please remove any energies that are not wanting us to read this energy. Thank you so much. That's why he argued so intensely against Jung, because Jung's concepts need help directly point out the unconscious behaviors that he was exhibiting as his own complex. Jung's intellectual theories pointed out Freud's own obstacles that he gave to himself unconsciously, because his whole theory was based upon a lie. It was based upon a lie. Should have been a communications major. Yeah. Freud, you shouldn't have been a psychologist, you should have been a communications major, because he single-handedly subverted the path of nipping this generational wound in the butt, and he perpetuated it through 1111 through his seduction theory. Infants do not seduce people. People seduce infants. Okay? Sick, man. That's sick.
The attic.
Breaks into own house. Yeah. Freud did everything except confront the very thing that he knew was correct. He pushed it down, way down deep, and in 7-Eleven, and instead of confronting it, he knew that he was a liar. He knew. He is fucking stoked. Under religion. Okay. Ah, it's just so sad. Merit badge. Yeah. Because he wanted to get credit. He didn't want to be out of the game. You know, if you're psychoanalyzing the wives of the elites, or the daughters of the elite that are perpetuating fertility rituals, that is the number one thing they don't want you to heal, okay? They don't want people to heal that. Black hole. Black hole. Yeah, qualification. Black hole. He didn't want to be irrelevant. That's what it all comes down to. It's like so sad.
I'm in the corner.
Okay. What else do you want us to know? Fluffy in reverse. This is somebody who's not nurturing. Freud is not a nurturer. You know, it's this nature versus nurture, what I just heard. You know, he's not nurturing himself, and the whole, you know, he comes up with this. He's a very intense person, Freud. Let me get to know him a little. He's a very intense person. He argues his points, you know, it's always about
People can't hear me.
people can't hear me, he says. He only talks about himself. He's very he wants to push himself. The narrative has to be with him in it. I'm not a mess, I'm a spicy disaster. I don't know, we'll find out. We'll find out. There's definitely something about him being betrayed. Look at this. An angel with a VR mask on. A distorted angel. He didn't see it the right way. His vision was distorted because he wanted merit. Evidence. He destroyed evidence, overtaking merit. Okay? He destroyed the path from the evidence he found because he wanted to have a good day. He wanted to have a good life. He wanted to he wanted to be able to continue his dream of being. It would have ruined his career. They would have ruined his career. But the thing is that it may have ruined his career in the way that he was envisioning it, but it would have paved the path forward to heal many, many lives and to come up with a foundational evidence of this particular point of reference. Okay? In the long term, it would have made him a very great man, but in the moment, he was like, oh, I can't, it has to be now. I have to be considered great now, because if I get shut down now, I'm not going to receive the credit or merit that I'm craving. Okay? That's the truth. That's the truth. Yeah. This Freud himself was a fragmented person, and that's why he opposed Jungian's theories, because Jung brought up that you need to integrate the shadows of yourself, and Jung's like, no, it's only what you can see, what you can observe. There's no, hold on, let me see. So Sigmund Freud argued human behavior is driven by internal unconscious desires, repressed traumatic memories, and innate biological drives. He believed problems must be uncovered through introspection and talk therapy. He would make his people come see him 6 days a week. 6 days a week. That's a lot. I would probably see a therapist maybe once a month. And I know Jung only had them come twice a week, maybe. Once a week. Okay, so Freud believed that the libido was fundamentally a sexual energy driving human behavior through repressed desires and complexes, such as the Oedipus complex, which says that an infant desires sexual gratification, which just pisses me off so much. It just makes me so angry that he purposely repositioned his findings to fit. That's what he needed to integrate. That he himself was unintegrated and had sexual desires that were against natural law. Okay? That were against natural law. Okay? Jung argued that the libido was a broader, generalized psychic energy that fueled creativity and spirituality, not just sexual impulses, which is absolutely true. Absolutely true. The unconscious mind. Freud focused on the personal unconscious, which houses an individual's suppressed memories and personal history. Jung expanded this by developing the concept of the collective unconscious, a shared universal layer of human experiences containing archetypes and symbols common to all cultures. Okay, Freud's therapeutic approach. Freud's methodology heavily emphasized historical reconstruction, looking backward to resolve neurosis stemming from childhood trauma and family dynamics. Jung adopted a more forward-looking theological approach, focusing on the future and the ultimate individuation or self-actualization. Okay, the split resulted in the creation of two separate schools of thought, Freud's psychoanalysis and Jung's analytical psychology. So they're both right in some ways and they're wrong in others, you know? In the role of libido, I just can't stress enough that an infant is not going to...
Amble.
An infant or child is not going to understand sex or pleasure or desires in that way unless it is introduced by an adult. Okay? That's the only way that they would understand or know that concept. Or even jealousy. You know, he claimed that the child would be jealous of, you know, like if a daughter has a father, the daughter would be jealous of the mother because of the relationship the mother and the father have. That's not true, okay? That's just something he made up. Make today matter in reverse. Make today matter in reverse. The choice that he decided on top of merit badge. The choice that he decided to flip his own findings to fit his own personal needs is just
Death is not the end.
ridiculous. And look at this face on top of an angel. Yeah. Distortion. Distorting. So I wonder what that looked like. Like, what did it look like to go through that for Freud? To have this, you know, finding come up and then have to, you know, change your mind. I don't know how I'm going to find that. How am I going to find that? Deceptor, a famous magician, claimed to be able to throw a ping pong ball so that it would go a short distance, come to a dead stop, then reverse itself. He also
Old
added,
mind.
he said old mind. Can you guys hear that? He also added that he would not bounce the ball against any object or tie anything to it. How could he perform this feat? So when he started to see this pattern, he knew that he knew that this would create distance and would create a dead stop for him. So he had to reverse it. He had to bounce back. And he had to make it so none of his concepts or theories could tie back to his original findings. And he thought for a long time, how can I make this happen? There, it also says magician. He bragged and claimed that he could hunt after vicious lions. But when he tried going after vicious lions, he said gloom, he slipped and he broke his foot. So he was all gung-ho for going. He put out an article, peer-reviewed paper on this theory or his findings, and that's where he slipped, and he could have, you know, that's where he had to be managed. So there's something about managing him and throwing him off track. He may have had his life threatened because it says track the lion or kill it. He may have had his life threatened and he didn't want to be caught in the cold. He didn't want to be killed. So he had to figure a way to top it off. He was in a small boat. He was in a small boat surrounded by sharks.
There's evil everywhere.
There's evil everywhere, in spite of the fact that his arm had been badly sprained. He had to tell a different tale. And he had to make it hard to believe so no one would know that he was lying. Wow. Wow. Who threatened your life? Who was threatening your life? Oh my God, stop!
Meth.
Stop it! He said meth. Get stranded on a deserted island with, and this says, on a small boat by himself, surrounded by sharks, which might as well be stranded on an island. Oh my gosh. That was the threat. When he wrote that article, he was threatened with death. And that it's the same, oh my gosh, it's the same MO, you guys. Get stranded on a deserted island with Italian accent. Phoenicians. Italian accent, the Phoenicians. Something about Phoenician. Please tell me about the Phoenicians.
I'm buried close by.
The occult and the Phoenicians. There's something about the Phoenicians.
Beginning.
The temple of Astarte, goddess of love and war, incorporated fertility rites, while the worship of Baal, Hammon, and Tanit involved the Tophet open-air sanctuaries where animal and child sacrifices were offered to appease deities and obtain favorable harvests or military victories. I am so certain, without a doubt in my mind, that he was psychoanalyzing the children of the elite that can be tied to Phoenician
Stay out the woods.
fertility rituals. Boom. Bada bing, bada boom. I cannot make it up, you guys. This makes me wonder if Freud really meant to produce that original finding, but he was threatened. Yes, that's what it is. I don't think he knew that it would be a threat. I think he thought that it was a breakthrough. And that's why he issued the findings. But when he did,
Nightmare.
that was his nightmare. He just said nightmare. Diplomatic immunity. And so the Phoenicians were like, you want to stay in this high society, you want to continue to work in this field, you want to continue, then you need to rearrange what you said, because it's already been, the article was already, published. And so it says right here, make it a point to make it hard to believe and change it, or you're gonna die, or we're gonna kill you. We're gonna kill your career. We're gonna kill you. It's gonna be terrible. All your kids are gonna be left out in the cold, and you're gonna be hunted. Okay, now it makes sense. You see, the Phoenicians and the Moloch worship had to do with sacrificing babies in the yes, exactly. So I think, and he said me, he just said me. So I think he inadvertently found out maybe not the ritual part of it, but every person he was psychoanalyzing, doing, he was using the Phoenician women, or the, what did he, the Venusian women, but really Phoenician women. Phoenicians more like bone each of us. Well, the fertility rituals don't work unless you continue the generational curse. So I think what we're finding out now, he found out, but he didn't understand the ritual part of it. But he would have if he kept going, so they threatened him.
Be
They're
wary
like,
of him.
be wary of him, he just said. Be wary of him, okay? Terrible things. Yeah, because he got his life threatened. You better find a way to fix this. Find a way to reevaluate your psychoanalytical findings, because we need it to be turned away from us. Whatever you can do to have it be turned away from us. He was like, "Oh man, terrible things are going to happen to me. What do I do? How can I fix this?" What did you say to yourself? Grass. This is where he cut off his own growth. This is where he cut off his own peace of mind, his own fulfillment, his own happiness. Okay? This is the point, the fork in the road. Moon. This is the parts we didn't see. This is the part we didn't see. A slightly used blow-up doll. This is where, you know, it's interesting. He had his own sexual things, and I'm not a hot mess, I'm a spicy disaster. I'm wondering if they were, because I know that this can happen two ways. You know, you don't have to get an archonic attachment through a ritual. You can do it by severely misinterpreting.
You are talented.
Thank you. By severely misinterpreting the path you should take. And if you choose to, like in Freud's instance, he is somebody who chose to not speak the truth and to distort the truth to make sure that his own path was paved. But that's not the way to pave your path. What Spirit was really telling him is that we've given.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, he said. He said, I'm sorry. What I've given you is a path to get out of this situation, so later future generations don't have to succumb to this wound. We can heal it right now. We can bring it out in the open. Your article can open up Pandora's box, but in a good way, where we can heal the unconscious, the collective unconscious wounds for all of the secret societies that are perpetuating these fertility rituals. Okay, because the fertility rituals don't work unless you're perpetuating this wound. That is the impact point. Okay, but because he chose to ignore this due to his own fears and terrible things that he thought would have happened to him, he thought that choosing this path would brought him diplomatic immunity. So the elite said, you know,
My name is Albert.
so the elite said, we'll spare your life if you can, you know, basically the archons used him because he might not have performed a ritual with them, but they used him in order to divert attention away and to come up with another theory that would disrupt the whole psychology field, that anyone who bases their fundamental knowledge of psychology based on Freud's things is actually defunct. It's debunked, because he made up a whole theory that was absolutely wrong just to divert attention away from his true findings.
My name is George.
Okay. Beard. The cover up. Cover it up. He covered it up. And so his archon attachment and his inability to feel fulfilled, and him always chasing, and him always, um, that's the difference between Jung and Freud. Jung went home. He crossed over. There might have been some, and we'll talk to him in a second. There were some controversial things from him that we'll get into, but it was a slightly different
understood.
It was a slightly different understanding. And so what held Freud back from crossing over and going home, why he's been in purgatory, is because he covered up the truth that he found, and then he redistributed a different truth to divert attention away from the real truth. And he didn't ever reconcile that. He actually pushed it down deep in his own unconscious mind, and that's how he got his archonic attachment that made, and it's not that he wanted to have weird sexual subversiveness, it was his archon attachment.
Resilience.
A slightly used blow-up doll. And that's why he got cancer of the mouth. I mean, not to mention that he smoked every single day, but he got cancer of the mouth because he chose to not speak the truth. Tell me about your relationship to Jung. Blank. Blank. Why is Freud still holding on? Because he had to tell us, he said, I'm sorry. He had to tell us that he's sorry. Because he literally pushed, Spirit always says better late than never, but this is a wound that was supposed to be healed a long time ago. Yes, Freud is a psychologist. Okay, it should have, the perfect alibi. Because it should have been healed a long time ago. In the early 1900s. This could have prevented wars from happening. This could have prevented so many years of turmoil and anguish. This could have stopped these fertility rituals dead in their tracks. But he chose. And that's what he wants to say I'm sorry about. So that's Freud, okay? Freud, how do you see from a higher perspective our global culture now and the digital age? How do you see that? Can't help but cheat. Can't help but cheat. Nowadays you have cheat codes, you're able to, it's the information age, so it's a whole different, feeling better, Sigmund? Do you feel better now? He's like, no. No.
You can't escape your mind.
You can't escape your mind. Yeah, he also said math, so he feels wrong, bad idea, manipulated, led astray. Right here. I think he's gonna take some time to heal this one, but you gotta reveal what needs to heal.
Mourning.
Mourning. He's mourning. He's mourning, as he understands now. His own unconscious, his own cult. He just said cult. The stupid cult made him do it. The stupid fucking cult made him do it. Sex den. He was part of it. He may have been jet-packed into the society. We'll give you merit. You'll be the most famous psychologist in the world if you just kind of twist this a little and then repackage it and divert attention away from the truth. Okay. Let's talk to Jung now. Jung! So, I will say there were some controversies about Jung. Nazi collaboration. The most heated controversy surrounding Jung stems from his activities in the 1930s. As the president of the International General Medical Society for Psychotherapy, he took over the editing of its medical journal. During this time, the society was pressured to align with Nazi ideology, and the journal published pro-Aryan and anti-Semitic content. Critics argue that Jung compromised his integrity to maintain his position and appease Nazi leadership. Conversely, Jung's
Nobody
defenders
talks to us.
and historians point out that he permitted Jewish psychoanalysts to remain in the society as individual members and actively worked to protect him from Nazi purges. He also later operated as a spy for the U.S. Office of Strategic Services. However, the controversy persists because his early writings in the 1910s and 20s contained unfortunate and stereotypical distinctions between Aryan and Jewish unconscious. He traveled extensively, studying various
like you.
cultures in North and Central Africa, South America, and India. However, his writings on non-European peoples are heavily steeped in the colonial and Eurocentric attitudes of his era. He frequently described indigenous and African cultures as primitive or childlike, contrasting them with the conscious and more developed European psyche. Modern psychologists and critical theorists heavily criticized these frameworks, noting that his psychological evaluations often treated non-white cultures as non-contextualized, archaic symbols rather than complex, co-equal human societies. Within the scientific and psychological communities, Jungian psychology faces significant backlash for its lack of empirical testability. Unlike modern clinical disciplines that rely on measurable behaviors, randomized controls trials, and operational definitions, Jung focused on highly speculative concepts like collective unconscious. He had a lot of mystical things, a lot of, he believed in psychic attacks,
Trust me.
and he believed in the collective unconscious, and which is actually something that we believe in as well. We believe in energy. He had a more like mystical approach or mystic
Twins.
approach to psychology. And so I'm wondering, let's dive into to Jung. So it's kind of giving me like a little bit of everything, like a very open-minded person. A very open-minded person. Someone who's well-versed, someone who, and it's funny because her sunglasses kind of look like his pipe that he has in his mouth, always. So it's like well-versed, a little bit of everything. But we joke and laugh, otherwise we would start screaming. We joke and laugh, otherwise we'd start screaming. Something about having hidden knowledge. Something about hidden knowledge. If you hang out with 9 losers, you'll become the 10th. What do you mean by that? Conviction. Conviction. What was your conviction about? Refers to themselves in the third person. He may have thought Freud was a loser. He thought Freud was a freaking coward. He thought Freud was a coward because he knew that he was lying about his findings. He knew
Watch out for evil.
Watch out for evil. He knew that Freud was evil in the sense that he rejected the truth. That he embraced the lie. If you hang out with losers, you'll become the 10th. Because he was hanging, Freud was hanging out with rich people in the sex den. So of course he wants to impress these people who don't even matter in the astral realm. You know, they don't matter spiritually because they're all spiritually in debt. They're all spiritually defunct. Goes on elaborate journey to use hot tub.
Mr. Baker.
Room to grow. Passive aggressive.
Wilson.
My mistakes are making me a better person. Yeah. He's like, Freud was a loser for having such conviction about a lie, because he refers to themselves in third person. I'm over here looking at his mistakes, and looking at my own unconscious behaviors, and I'm making room to grow. I take an elaborate journey to learn many things so I can understand. Pleased to meet you, so I can understand it from many different viewpoints. Okay? He understands energy. We joke and laugh, otherwise we would start screaming. He understands energy. Why do you understand energy so well? Governor Gamble, who was looking for a very smart man to be his advisor, was down to the final 3 applicants. He told the 3 men that he had 5 hats. 3 white and 2 green hats. The white hats. The white hats. I heard the white hats.
Sir.
Who are the white hats? And he said, sir. That reminds me of the Knights Templar. The Knights Templar. Was Carl Jung a Knights Templar? Jung's grandfather, who's also named Carl, was heavily involved in esoteric circles and served as the Grand Master of the Swiss Lodge of Freemasons. That's how he arrived at that conclusion. That's how he landed the job. That's how he was able to get the answers or the conclusions that he came to, because he had other information that most people are blind to. He had secret knowledge. I cannot make it up. Carl is my cat's name. If you never go, you will never know. If you never go to a meeting, you'll never know the secret knowledge. I can't stand people. 414 in the chat. I cannot stand people. So he had secret initiatory knowledge. That's why he had these. That's how he had these concepts. Carl Jung, are you saying that some of the concepts that you brought forward were from esoteric knowledge? Yes. It's a good investment. Let me see. Where should I look? How to Choose. I'm looking in The Creative Act, A Way of Being by Rick Rubin. It says, his life and his art consisted of a series of choices, like a tree with many branches. He worked on a seed and it began to sprout from a core idea. It grew with each decision and became splitting off and started to split off in new directions, growing finer and finer in detail.
Emma.
And I have go on an elaborate journey and room to grow. Okay? So he had a fundamental idea first about with secret knowledge. He knew that it could go in any number of directions, but it would be his choice that would alter the final result, often radically. How did he decide which direction to take? Oh, he may have been at a fork in the road. How did he choose a choice that led to the best possible version of the work? His answer was rooted.
No, I didn't.
His answer was. Oh, he said, no, I didn't. Are you saying you didn't? Oh, okay, I got what you're saying. So there's something about him having the same fork in the road as Freud, but he chose different because, unlike Freud, he had a principle or a concept of hidden knowledge where he understood his two choices because he had something to compare it to. And that's why he made a wise, absolute decision beyond evaluation. So there's something about him possibly being introduced to a choice point, just like Freud. It was difficult to assess or choose without another point of reference. If you place two options side by side and make a direct comparison, our preferences become clear. Oh my gosh, so he literally used Freud as an access point of what he didn't want because he knew that Freud was lying about his theories. But there's something about him not being able to make that clear. He was limited in his options because he was put to a test where he had two possibilities. His choices weren't clouded like Freud's because he used Freud's as the differentiating comparison of the comparison is.
You are important.
Thank you. They both were confronted by the elite. Two actors reading the same monologue, two shades of a color, two different floor plans of an apartment. But the difference between Freud and Jung, and the reason why Jung crossed over and why Freud didn't, is because Freud already had a basic understanding of collective conscious and psychic energy because of his grandfather. And so there's something about him understanding the integrity of that and then witnessing the choosing of going with the elite into a sex den or a cult. And he used that as a way to choose, of a way to contrast, of a way to choose. he was able to step back and directly compare what it looked like, because he's also psychoanalytical, so he's analyzing Freud, and he's witnessing Freud's downfall the minute he chose merit over truth, and Jung chose truth over merit, and by doing that, there's something about him directly being able to counteract the cult, to still bring forward relevant information
What's
without
that device?
having to do fertility rituals. Okay? It was a subtle pull, but he followed the natural feedback in his body so he could move forward with the hints that brought him joy. We would joke and laugh, otherwise we would start screaming, because he has contextual contrast for what it looks like to follow joy or to follow the ego. Whenever it was possible, he had to conceal as many details as possible to remove any biases undermining fair comparison. So that's why he didn't share where he got the knowledge from, because then he wouldn't have been looked at as being relevant, and people would have looked at him as joining a secret society, or that would have, I don't know, something about having to conceal that part of it. Hi Drake, thanks for being here. Hello. Jeez, I love your eyebrows. Make me feel better about my unibrow. Did Jung not side with Weishaupt's Illuminati like Freud? I don't think he did. But I think that he may have been, I think they may have come to him. Show. He just said show. How do I clean that up? Carl, did you get approached by this cult? Were you approached by this cult? Yes. Stokes your passion, heart's desire blooming. Did they give you an offer? Yes. Make a splash, deep dive, flowing easily in your life. What was the offer?
One lady here.
What was the offer? Fame and, to be famous. Did you turn it down? Yes. Open to suggestions, front and center, steady. Did turning down the offer protect you? Did turning down the offer protect you? Yes. Turning down the offer protected Carl Jung. Beauty and growth surround you, cherish it. That's what I was talking about in the beginning. There's like two distinct sides of, it's like Carl Jung represents the feminine energy of these concepts, and he feels very open and he feels very flowy and he's very open-minded, whereas Freud feels very masculine, where it feels very rigid and very like closed off, and it has to be this way, and they're two different energies. And so what we're witnessing, or what I'm observing, or what I'm putting together, is that Freud is an example of someone who took the offer, who chose fame and merit, and who had to rearrange his life and his concepts and his ideologies and his theories, and to misdirect, because that was the deal. If you misdirect, we'll give you this. Whereas Jung, when he was approached, he said no, but I wonder what that looked like. Like, why? How did it look like saying no? Like, what did that look like? He was protected. It didn't matter. He was protected because what we're learning is once you decide that you don't want to compromise your integrity, your belief systems, your ideologies, your values, when you choose to not do the unthinkable and go against your values, you become protected. And so it doesn't matter, even if he's having to placate the Nazis through his, peer review and his journal, the thing that said,
Vengeful.
what did it say? I'm not very good at remembering these things. Where is it? Of course I can't find it now. I can't find it now. But it basically said, here. Some theorists assert that Jung's Red Book wasn't a personal psychological journal, but a coded occult manifesto outlining Illuminati or Masonic mind control rituals. Critics and historians argue these narratives stem from misinterpreting Jung's use of alchemical and Gnostic symbolism. Was it Masonic mind control rituals? No. No, it wasn't. Hi, Lucas. But it did have Gnostic information because that's what he grew up with. That's what he learned. It also says channeling extraterrestrials. Theorists link Jung's interest in UFOs and synchronicity to the channeling of aliens or interdimensional beings. In reality, Jung analyzed UFOs strictly as psychological projections and archetypal manifestations of collective anxiety rather than literal extraterrestrial visitations. Were you visited by extraterrestrials?
You're not alone in here.
Yes. And Spirit just said you're not alone. Were you were you part of a secret society? No. But did you have knowledge of Gnostic ancient information? Yes. Okay. So the difference is that he was approached by the Illuminati. He was invited to become for fame and fortune, but he said no. He didn't want to. And that's why he got to cross over, because he wasn't compromised in that way. Ugly sweater. He may have been pushed out a little, but he didn't care. Irritable bowel syndrome. People might have been irritated that he didn't want to join the cult, but he said it made him untouchable. Okay. Has never looked at porn. This is somebody that wasn't.
Hello, friend.
Carl Jung is somebody that wasn't, he wasn't sexually abused. He didn't have a history of that. He isn't somebody that was led by his libido.
Thank you for respect.
But Freud was, and Freud was because he went against his own values, and so that made him so that made him a open vessel for archonic attachment, because he dabbled with the elites in this cult through sex rituals, and so he had an archonic attachment. And so now that archon is always trying to make his unconscious truth not visible to him. So Freud is always looking for a reason in the wrong areas, because he's lying to himself about his own indiscretions, whereas Jung is not ruled by that, because he's not somebody that compromises values, and so he's not led by sexual desires, because the very need of sexual gratification beyond control is an archonic attachment. The archonic attachment needs you to be addicted to sexual gratification, or the perversive, the deviancy of sexual concepts, to make you feel guilt and shame. That's because that's the number one way to cause mental illness is through guilt and shame. And what else? What better way is there to cause guilt and shame and a mental break so you can stay in the red ray, so you're a constant food source for archontic energy, than through sexual deviancy? And so Freud had a hard time evaluating himself because of his own sexual deviancy. He didn't want to take accountability for the fact that he allowed himself to be ruled by his penis. And so he knew that sexual abuse was running rampant in the elite circles, and he on purpose chose to redirect that because the elite said, well, if you do it this way, we'll make sure that your career isn't ruined. Where Carl Jung said, ruin my career, I don't care, I'm not going to join your weird sexual cult, because he's not ruled by his penis, okay? Does archonic attachment remain after death? Yes. Yes, and that's guilty. He said guilty. Okay. Confirmation. When you die with an archonic attachment, it means that you never overcame guilt and shame or whatever negative emotions were placed upon you and that you lived with that you never integrated. So when you cross over, you're a slave to the archontic attachment. Even on the other side, you're still a food source, because even when your body dies, you're still a soul. So the goal for the archonic attachment is food. Okay, you don't question you don't question pulling the vegetables and fruits off the trees and eating them. You don't ask for permission. So when we cultivate our fruits and vegetables and we're doing specific things to ensure that they grow a harvest, that's the things that the archons do to ensure their harvest. And so on a linear view, it looks like, sex addiction and repression and, abuse and mind control and isolation and all these things. But on the astral realm, that is the archon using your mind against you so that you act in these ways. It has nothing to do with your infancy and being sexually aroused as an infant. No, these are things that are introduced to you at a young age. And so Freud's over here trying to understand why all these people have sexual abuse. Well, it must be their own fault that they were born this way. They were born, wanting to have sex with their fathers and wanting to be, all these things. But that's not true. Okay? He made that up. So the whole point of this reading is to show you the difference between choosing your morals and your values and upholding them. Somebody who upheld them, who chose them, who, he may have had to pretend to work with the Nazis so that he didn't get killed, so he could still allow Jewish people to be part of the peer-reviewed science. He had to play the game a little. Does that mean he was a Nazi sympathizer? Well, what if you were in those days? Do you think it would have been, a good idea to go against the Nazis and then just have yourself be killed off, or to pretend that you're going along with them and to allow, Jewish people and to secretly allow people to be able to still be in the medical field that you're in? So I don't think that made him evil. I think you're just playing the game. Okay? Yeah, is that what she's talking about? Oh, we're talking about Jung and Freud? Yes, we're talking about Jung and Freud. So that's why, if you go, I'm getting so caught up in wanting to give you their whole life story, but if you go and you listen to the stories of Jung and the stories of Freud, you will see and hear the difference in the lives they led. Jung is the energy of feminine energy, where he's open-minded and he's nurturing and he's understanding metaphysical concepts that are true for our soul and how it is interpreted through our mind, and that we never stop becoming a soul, and so those concepts are still relevant even in a human body, that we're a collective consciousness, that we share repressed trauma, and that we can heal it together, and we can all heal by healing ourselves, by integrating our own shadows. We can cause a ripple effect into the unconscious mind, where this person now is going to integrate in that person, and it can happen one person at a time. Whereas Freud was totally looking away from the truth, and his life is a downward spiral that caused him to feel, cut off, and caused him to feel very restricted and very rigid. Whereas, Jung is very open-minded, and he's happy-go-lucky, and he gets to laugh, and he gets to find the joy in life, because see what I'm saying? It's a different energy. They're two different energies. And so I will say, though, that Jung was quite passive aggressive. There may have been a lot of times where he was silenced or not able to speak his truth about how he got his information, but it didn't make it less true. It didn't. He wasn't worried about.
My life ended fast.
He wasn't worried about. You need to know where I got this and that it's true and it has empirical evidence. He just knew. He just trusted that it was true, and he trusted, following his values. Okay, which made him protected. Whew. Any last words? Anyone have a question? There is a soul in all of us. Do you believe in spirits and ghosts? Do you think they are real or just psychological? I think they're both. I believe there's factors in play, some biological from past trauma, and I think it's both. That's the overarching message here, is that they're both right. We're affected by unconscious and conscious. So we're affected by things we can't see and things we can. We're affected by unknown and known. They both need to come together. The masculine and the feminine need to come together. We are affected by environmental, by relationships. We are affected by past life trauma and unconscious collective trauma. Even things we haven't experienced, but the person that's experiencing the most trauma will be able to psychically feel their trauma and not even know that it's affecting us. Okay? So it's both.
Edwin.
I think the message I'm getting in this is that don't be afraid to stand up for your values and your morals. It might not get you recognition now. It might not give you.
I'm taking my time.
It might not, make you blow up on a worldwide scale. But if you touch one person because you are like, no, I don't feel like that's right, and you do, this is what it reminds me of. Like, if you're at work and you know that you put something away wrong or did something wrong, but you decide to just let it go because it's not a big deal, but then someone comes along and gets blamed for it, and you don't say anything. You don't say, oh, that's my fault, my bad. What are the implications of that energetically? What you're really saying is that I'm going to let that person take the fall because nobody will ever know is me, and it'll make them look bad and make me and not make me look bad. You know, maybe that's a bad analogy, but on a small scale, what you would gain in that moment by saying, "Oh no, that was my fault, my bad," you know, not wanting someone else to take the blame for you. What it would mean on a soul level is you amplify your soul a little bit. But if you choose to let someone take the fall for something you know you did, you descend a little.
I am Cain.
So in one sense you will ascend, you'll climb up a notch, and on the other hand you'll fall a little. So it's not something that's visible or physical that's happening, but it's an energy. It's an energetic exchange. And every time you lie to someone, every time you you talk badly about someone, or you judge someone, or all these negative things that go against our natural soul's frequency, which is love. Anytime that goes against the value of love, you descend a little. And it's not physical, so you're like, oh, it's not a big deal, nobody's gonna know anyway. But God knows, your soul knows. And so it's important. I think what this reading is telling me is that the things that are unseen are much more important than the things that are seen. Did Freud and Jung ever meet in purpose, or how did that go? Did Freud and Jung ever meet in person? It says yes. Because there are very few accounts of someone actually claiming that they know about their past life, and it's not something plausible. Well, that's the thing. It is. It actually is. And that's what we're learning, is that the things unseen do affect us. Past life trauma or generational trauma from a past life does affect us. From other ancestors, it does affect us. And when we do not consciously integrate and retrieve, or come to try to understand or let go of these unseen things, these non-physical things, that's when it creates a bigger chip on our shoulder. Freud, he wanted merit. He chose to not speak the truth so he could have merit. Okay? The point is, how do you know they're speaking the truth? Who? Who's they? I don't know who they is. Patience, that memory of seeing your mom pop up and
Great.
dip out in spirit, like, CEO is hilarious. Yeah. Yeah. Victim mentality. The guys you're looking up to are sickos. The ones who are claiming they have seen their past life and lived. Well, I'm one of them. I haven't seen every past life, but in my experience, what I'm observing, what's observable, is that certain insecurities I have where I can't
Kid.
understand, Spirit just said kid, so like childhood trauma where you don't remember how it happened or why you got it. See, Freud was obsessed with going into the past and going over your whole childhood and remembering every memory so you can overcome it. But what if you can't remember? So in my experience, what Spirit is teaching me is that you don't have to remember every detail to integrate the fragment. Even if it's from a past life, you don't necessarily have to remember the past life. What you have to come to terms with is that the emotion that was expelled by that trauma in whatever life it was in, past, present, or future, has an energetic cord to you now, into all of those versions of yourself that all affect each other in an emotional way. And so if you're continuing a pattern or behavior that is negative, that keeps you in a perpetual cycle of conflict, chaos, desperation, depression, all these negative emotions, and you don't know why you're doing it,
I'm really here.
it's because of it could be because of something you don't remember from past, present, or future. Well, how do you integrate that? Well, in my experience, I can't speak for everyone. When you ask your spirit, that's what your spirit team is for. You cannot do it without relationship to spirit. The whole time, this whole time, the reason they cut us off and separate us into masculine and feminine is because when you combine the two, your spirit team will bring you ways to softly integrate things you cannot remember, things that are unseen from your past life that you don't need to remember but still need to be integrated for you to be a whole person that can find joy, that can feel full, that can be in alignment. We used to be this way, and one of the key things in order to feel full or to become integrated or to be in alignment frequentially, electromagnetically, is to understand yourself and the reason why you do things. You may bite your nails or bite your lip constantly to a point where you're always in pain in your fingers and your nail and your lip. Well, why do you do that? Maybe you saw a parent do that. Maybe there's there's forces unseen that you don't understand. Maybe it's because you have a nervous tick. Like whatever it is, what I'm saying is, in my experience, spirit, when I come to a piece of myself that needs to be integrated, spirit will bring a dream to me or a vision to me of whatever experience, whether it's past, present, or future, that led to that unconscious conclusion of unconscious perpetuation of a behavior or an insecurity. Once I get the vision of that life that led to that insecurity or that emotional experience, because everything's happening now, okay? Then I can understand why I feel that way. Once you understand why you're perpetuating some unconscious behavior, you can consciously stop doing it. Okay? LOL, I'm not a psychologist, but I hope that made sense, because it's like, it's so hard to put it into words that's understandable because it's non-physical. We think that because we can't observe it that it's not affecting us, but it is. Okay? Oh yes, I've had the 3 past life regressions, and it brings you into the present to who you truly are. Now, what you're doing now, why you're doing it. Exactly. So that's exactly, Robin. So it's about bringing the unconscious into the conscious, so you can observe it. So it's both. It's Freud and Jung, and understanding psychically that energy can affect you, and it might not have even happened to you, but you can still feel the effects of how it happened to someone else. You're trying to say that our past life affects the present ones, but I fail to understand how. I don't think if there's any past life, I think it's just the creation of mind. But see, that's the thing. It doesn't matter whether you created it or if it's true, because in the end, if that is something that your mind had to create for you to understand why you're doing something, what does it matter? Does it matter if it's a past life, future life, present life? It doesn't matter. So it's not the memory, it's the behavior pattern that you're bringing forward. And if it has to be brought forward through a past life recognition, then that's just one of many ways. You know, my husband brings this up a lot too. He's like, how do you know you're talking to spirit? How do you know it's not just yourself? And I say all the time, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If it's me, if it's God, if it's whatever label I put on it, if the outcome is an understanding of myself in a positive direction that brings positive reinforcement and changes a negative into a positive, it doesn't matter where it comes from. It doesn't matter how it's created. It doesn't matter how it's brought to you. The end result is still the same. And so that's why Spirit says you don't have to remember trauma in order to heal it. You just have to understand where it comes from and that you can change it, you can transmute it. Okay? Fragments surface to be processed, absolutely. And so, in my experience, I use Spirit as my psychologist
You will see me.
to help myself psychoanalyze myself. And by doing that, I get little pieces at a time, so that way I'm not overwhelmed and I don't go into a psychotic break. Because when you start to integrate pieces, you have to have, once you, I don't know how to explain this. I'm just going to explain it in the way it happened to me, and I hope that you get it. So, like, for instance, I had a issue with accepting that I had psychic abilities because what's the word? Um, I was told I was demonic and stuff. So okay, I shut it down. But by not accepting the way that I am, the way that I was born, it caused a lot of insecurities for me to walk a path of being a healer. I had a lot of thoughts and insecurities about how, I'm not good enough. No, that's not true. I'm not healed enough to be a healer. All these misconceptions. So then when I went into a place of quietness and I started to ask my spirit team for, how I can overcome this, how I can gain clarity, then I went to meditation and I got a vision of a past life where I was a medicine woman or as a medicine man, and I killed a whole tribe. It's on my TikTok. I accidentally killed my whole tribe because I was in connection with my spirit team to bring, medicinal things, energetic and physical, to the tribe, and that was my role. But
Very.
but I started to stop asking my spirit team because I got too cocky, and I started to say, "Well, I know everything. There's nothing else I need to know. I'm all knowing now." And the and something happened where it was a virus, some kind of sickness, and instead of asking my spirit team for a way or for clarity, I decided to put it upon myself to get rid of the virus myself. And in my ego, by thinking that I could do it on my own, I killed my whole tribe. And then I eventually killed myself, and I died alone, knowing that it was my own fault that I did that. So, by Spirit showing me, by me asking and Spirit showing me that specific thing that was tying me up from, because I never released it. I died without releasing that curse that I placed on myself. So in this life, it affected me by not accepting my psychic gifts, by not accepting that I'm a healer, that in every life I choose to be a healer in some form or another, and by not walking that path that was already predestined for me, it was throwing me off course because I was forcing a path that wasn't meant for me. So by them showing me that life, I cried and I released it. Oh, I'm gonna cry right now. I'm gonna cry right now. Because that was a lot of guilt and shame that kept me from accepting the path that I needed to take. So I hope that helps make sense of it, and I hope that helps you understand. Whew. Seeing the big picture, you assemble a more meaningful than adding up the parts, fragments, connected pieces. Absolutely. Release the energy that fragments resurface, causing learning points till understood. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. So in this reading, what we're learning is that Carl Jung had a fundamental foundation of mystical spiritual concepts, whereas Freud did not. And so Freud had to choose because he was given an option, because he came to a truth that would have fundamentally changed our whole trajectory. But it got thwarted because he chose merit over truth. Whereas Jung had the foundational concepts of spirituality and mystical concepts, and got to see, by choosing and living a life based on the spiritual concepts, Freud was the contrast of not choosing the spiritual concepts. And so it was easy for Jung to say no to an offer of that would have provided a lot of guilt and shame, and that's why he got to cross over, because he didn't die with guilt and shame, but Freud did. And so that's the difference in this energy. Freud chose to choose rather than flow with energy. Absolutely, it wasn't Freud's path to go the path that he chose. It was his path to bring the truth about sexual abuse and the connection to mental illness. Do you know that there were major flaws in different schools of psychologists? It's not 100% true. It's fundamental flaws. Absolutely, yes. That's what we just brought forward. That Freud purposely misdirected his findings to protect the elite, and he chose to become part of the elite, part of the sex den, because he wanted merit, and they promised him that. Whereas Jung, that wasn't important to him, because he understood spiritual concepts, and he understood that it's more important to have spiritual wealth than physical wealth, and so that protected him. Yes. I bet you can't tell us what spiritual means. Oh, that one was so hard for me, guys. That was so hard for me. I think just because, thank you guys for being here, and I'm so happy LOL and Robin were here to help me redirect when I got off course, because it's almost like the archon attachment that's still with Freud was like, it was like this pull. It was like this pull away from each other. It kept wanting me to pay attention to Freud and don't pay attention to Jung, and it was this weird pull. So I kept feeling like, but I think we got it. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I love you guys. That was a big one. That was lots of concepts, lots of big ideas. How can we end it? I got 2 cards. One for Freud, one for Jung. Courage and guidance. I'll read courage first. I am stronger than fear and bigger than doubt. I am light. I remain light. I trust in God and stand tall before the tests of life. I grow and become wiser through every challenge. I am a being of new life. That was Jung. Having to remain courageous in a time that kept trying to pull him out of his light. But he remained standing tall, and he overcame his fear that his morals and his values would protect him by him not taking the offer. Okay, he was protected. And Freud's guidance. In times of uncertainty, I ask God to guide me to the light in my being. I am directed to doors that will open inner freedom to me and step forward in trust. I release my faith to God, and my faith is rewarded. Freud is saying that he wishes he would have trusted the guidance, that he wishes he would have believed in God enough to believe that where he was being guided was going to bring him freedom. Instead, he trusted his mind instead of trusting his heart. Jung was willing to accept the consequences. Big claims about Freud being bribed by the elite, no evidence. And so, Well, we're not here for evidence, we're here for faith, and we're going by energy. So I think the evidence is in the fact that he found the truth out and made a peer-reviewed article about the pattern of sexual abuse and its linked to mental illness, and then him taking that back, retracting it, and saying that infants get horny and jealous. I think that's the proof. Okay? I'm not a psychologist, but LOL is, and he's here open-minded, listening to different points of view, and I think that makes a great psychologist. Okay? So, he's saying that if he would have trusted the path that was being presented to him by him finding this evidence out, he would have found that it would have led to a road where he would have been acclaimed and he would have still been successful. Okay? He would have still been successful. But he chose his mind where he chose fear over faith. He chose fear over faith. Okay? I lost it at we are not here for evidence. Well, that just tells me where you're at spiritually. You're someone who's very masculine and you have to see something in order to believe it. But I'm a psychic and I live in a different world where I feel it, and by following the feeling, I unfold a different reality where the evidence is in feeling good, in feeling fulfilled, in feeling satisfied. That's the evidence for me. When I follow things that make me feel full, I follow electromagnetically, that's the evidence. I am the living evidence. I'm living my life electromagnetically by following Spirit's guidance, and I'm documenting it for you on Spirit News and on our TikToks. You can follow us. I've documented our whole journey, and I'll continue to document it, and I am the living body of proof. I am the evidence. I am showing you through the guidance that I'm receiving and putting it into real time that living electromagnetically brings you fulfillment, brings you happiness, brings you joy. So that's my evidence. No one can feel satisfied ever. That's projection. That's projection. That's projection. That's how you feel. That's not how I feel.
My legs.
But I'm happy you're here. And you're allowed to feel any way you want, just like I am, and we can both exist at the same time. And if you're here, there's something here for you. And I can 100% guarantee you that you can feel satisfied, and you can still want more. You can be satisfied where you're at and still want more. Okay? I love you guys so much. Yes, Darth, you will challenge us. We respect that. Absolutely. We absolutely accept that there's people who will challenge our way of thinking, and we want that. Everybody's allowed to think however, whatever it takes, however, wherever you're at is exactly where you're supposed to be at, and we appreciate you. So I love you so much. I gotta go. I have to pee so badly. This was a challenge for me, and I appreciate everyone being here, helping me get through it. I'm not an expert in reading energy. Every day, every weekend, we're here at 6 a.m. and we're learning along with you guys, and we're so grateful for you. Before my regressions, I used to think people couldn't change. After my regressions, I'm absolutely certain you can change any minute of any day. Your character is on the line no matter who you are. Absolutely, Robin. I believe the same thing. I am witness to a narcissistic transition. I have witnessed someone who had an archonic attachment absolutely choose to change their life, and a miracle happen. I'm gonna cry. I have witnessed someone who would be psychologically categorized as a narcissist completely change their life 360 degrees and continue to choose and operate in positive electrodynamic possibility and continue to be healed. I have witnessed it, and I continue to witness it every day, and it's a miracle. Oh, thank you, Robin. Thank you, Robin. I tell everyone to go to you too. You can heal. God wants everyone to heal. There's not one person in the world that doesn't have the opportunity or choice to choose better. I love you guys so much. I'm going to be here tomorrow again, 6 a.m. We're going to do Nolan Wells. We'll find out what happened to Nolan Wells, okay? I love you guys so much. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.